Have you ever stared at a blank wall, knowing you want a gallery wall, but just couldn't quite get it right? Maybe you ended up with a few random frames, or worse, more nail holes than actual art. Or perhaps you've tried and it just didn't quite look professional. I know I've definitely been there. Today we're taking a deep dive into transforming that common home decor challenge into a real triumph. We're talking creating professional, non-cluttered gallery walls that truly shine.
That's right. And our mission here is to unpack the secrets we've found, looking at various sources, including some fantastic insights from uh, Mindful Living.
Mhm.
We really want to help you turn those, intimidating blank walls into curated, personality-filled focal points. The goal is moving beyond those chaotic collages, getting a look that's, well, deliberately designed. What's become really clear, especially looking toward 2025, is that gallery walls they've evolved. The focus now is less on just filling space, much more on intentional curation, consistent spacing, and importantly, balanced visual weight. So yeah, let's get into how to achieve that polished, intentional look.
Okay, let's unpack this because our research points to the absolute biggest mistake people make. Grabbing that hammer before having any kind of plan. It's like trying to bake a cake without even glancing at the recipe.
Exactly. It just doesn't work.
Professional gallery walls, they just don't happen by accident. The advice we found really emphasizes this floor-first approach, and honestly, it sounds like a game changer.
It truly is. That planning stage is where you save yourself, oh, so much frustration. Not to mention all those unnecessary holes in your walls. The professional steps for planning are actually quite straightforward, but incredibly effective. First, you do a floor mock-up. You outline your wall dimensions with painter's tape right there on the floor.
Oh, right on the floor, okay.
Yeah. Then arrange all your frames inside that taped area. Take photos from above, looking down. It really helps you visualize how it'll look up on the wall.
So you're literally treating your floor like the wall itself first. That's clever.
Exactly. Then the next step is paper templates. You trace your frames onto craft paper, that sturdy brown paper. Cut them out, and then tape those directly onto the actual wall.
Ah, okay. So you see it in place?
Precisely. This lets you
Clever.
visualize the arrangement and, importantly, adjust things easily before you pick up a single nail. And here's where it gets really critical for that professional look. Consistent spacing. We just can't stress this enough. Maintaining, say, 2 to 3 inches between frames creates that clean, intentional appearance.
Right.
Inconsistent spacing. That's what instantly makes a wall look amateurish, cluttered. It just disrupts the whole visual rhythm.
That makes so much sense, and it's actually kind of a relief. I remember hearing this story. Someone's boyfriend asked if they'd hired a professional for their new gallery wall.
Oh.
And the secret was simply that they took the time to plan with these templates instead of just, banging nails in randomly. That's the aha moment right there. The planning is the design. Now let's talk frames, because nothing screams cluttered faster than just a total mishmash of competing frame styles, right? But how do you get that cohesive look without making everything perfectly match? Because let's be honest, that can get a bit, well, boring.
That's a really common challenge. And the trick isn't perfect matching. It's about creating intentional harmony. The guidelines we've seen for professional-looking frames suggest limiting your frame finishes. Stick to a maximum of, say, 2 or 3 complementary styles.
Okay.
I think maybe black frames with some brass accents or perhaps natural wood paired with white. Something like that. That immediately elevates the look and creates a sense of purpose.
So not every frame has to be identical, but they need to feel like they belong together, like a sort of family of frames?
Precisely. Yeah, visual language, exactly.
Yeah.
You also need to balance the visual weight. Mix thin and thicker frames carefully. Too many heavy, ornate frames can create visual chaos, but then again, an entire wall of really thin, flimsy frames can look a bit weak. And a key detail, often overlooked, but it makes a huge difference: proper matting.
Ah, the mat, that cardboard border thing.
Yes. White mats especially create that crucial breathing room around your art. They instantly professionalize pieces, particularly for more minimalist designs. They just guide your eye right to the art itself.
Yeah, we learned about a bedroom gallery wall example where they used all black frames with white mats, and it completely unified all these different art styles perfectly. It just goes to show how that consistent frame approach can really tie everything together, whatever the art is inside. So we've got the frame sorted. Planning is key. But then comes the actual hanging. Living rooms often feel like the biggest canvas, right? And that can be super intimidating. Where do you even begin with such a large blank space?
It definitely can feel overwhelming. And there's that temptation to just, fill every single inch.
Yeah.
But thoughtful arrangement in larger spaces, it needs more strategic approach. First, you want to position your gallery relative to your furniture, like anchor it above a sofa or a console table.
Okay.
Keep the bottom edge of the lowest frames about 6 to 8 inches above the furniture. That gives it the right proportion, connects the art to the room's flow.
That's a brilliant guideline. It visually anchors the art, doesn't it? Makes it feel less like it's just floating randomly on the wall.
Absolutely. You also want to think about creating visual contrast. Mix bolder graphic pieces with softer, maybe more subtle art. This creates a nice visual rhythm, stops the wall from feeling monotonous. So, for example, maybe combine some striking black and white photography with softer watercolor pieces. Gives it a balanced interest.
Nice.
And to add depth, don't be afraid to incorporate dimensional elements, things like mirrors or wall sconces, or even small floating shelves mixed in. These break up the flatness of just having frames, they add layers of interest.
And this gets really interesting. I was chatting with an interior designer friend recently, and she shared her trick. She said she treats the negative space, the empty wall between the pieces, intentionally.
Ah, yes, that's key.
It's not just empty space, it's an active part of the composition. It truly transforms how you approach the spacing, makes even simple DIY walls look professionally designed.
It's such a profound shift in perspective, isn't it?
Yeah,
It lets your art breathe and prevents that cluttered feeling.
definitely. Now, what about those of us in, say, compact apartments or smaller rooms? The standard gallery wall rules might not always apply when you don't have a huge wall to play with.
You're absolutely right. Small spaces need a lighter touch, more strategic thinking.
Yeah.
When width is limited, the trick is to utilize your vertical space. Build the gallery upward instead of spreading it out horizontally.
Okay, go vertical.
Yeah, it draws the eye up, creates the illusion of higher ceilings, and can actually make the room feel a bit more expansive.
That's a clever way to make a room feel bigger without, knocking down walls.
It genuinely works wonders. You also need to practice restraint. In really small spaces, limit yourself. Maybe 3 to 5 pieces, maximum. Overcrowding will just make the space feel even smaller and more chaotic.
Right, less is more sometimes.
Definitely in small spaces. And consider floating shelves. Those slim picture ledges. They're fantastic. You can layer frames on them, mix in small objects for dimension, all without making the wall feel too heavy or busy.
Yeah, we've seen examples where this worked beautifully, like a tiny hallway gallery with just 3 really carefully chosen pieces, and a guest bathroom with 3 vertical botanical prints. It just shows how simplicity can really work wonders in those tight spots.
So the most impressive gallery walls, they always feel deliberately curated, don't they? Like they're telling a visual story. How do we achieve that cohesive look, especially if you have pieces from different places, different styles?
It really is all about creating those intentional relationships between the pieces, even if they aren't perfectly matched. One really effective strategy is to unify with color. Choose a limited color palette, maybe 2 or 3 key colors.
And then make sure every piece in the gallery incorporates at least one of those colors, even subtly. We saw a great example, a dining room gallery that used only black, white, and gold tones across completely different art styles. It instantly pulled everything together.
So it's like a subtle thread connecting everything, a kind of quiet conversation between the pieces.
Exactly that. And you can also blend different mediums. Don't feel you have to stick to just photos or just prints. Feel free to mix photographs, illustrations, paintings, even textiles, if they share a common theme or style or that color story we mentioned.
Right.
And for personal photos, family pictures and things, integrate them strategically. Don't let them completely dominate the display. They look far more sophisticated and more integrated when they're part of a larger, thoughtful composition,
Yeah.
kind of nestled among other art pieces.
I really like that idea we came across about finding one hero piece to sort of anchor everything, like that example of a vintage map with subtle blue tones, and that one piece became the inspiration guiding the entire collection for the wall. It's amazing how one focal point can spark a whole vision.
It really can. It gives you a starting point and a reference.
Now, for what feels like one of the biggest design decisions, do you go symmetrical and structured or more organic and eclectic? Both can look incredibly professional, but they definitely create different vibes in a space. How do we choose?
Yeah, this choice truly defines the whole feel of your gallery wall. The 2 main styles are grid arrangements and salon-style layouts. Grid arrangements. They're ideal for modern minimalist interiors. They use identical frames, consistent spacing. It creates instant order, sophistication. Precision here is absolutely non-negotiable. You'll need your laser level, your measuring tape. Got to get it crisp and clean.
So for that really clean, almost architectural feel, the grid is your best friend. Total precision needed.
Yes, absolute precision. Salon-style layouts, on the other hand, they're more relaxed, more artistic. They let you mix frame sizes and orientations more freely. The key to stopping them from looking messy, though.
Ah, yes. How do you stop the chaos?
You still need to maintain consistent outer edges, kind of like creating an invisible perimeter for the whole group. And crucially, keep consistent spacing between the pieces, even within that organic flow. That prevents the visual chaos.
Right, spacing is still king even in an eclectic style.
Exactly.
We saw some fantastic examples illustrating this perfectly. A living room with a symmetrical grid felt really calm, ordered. And then a home office with an eclectic arrangement felt much more energetic, creative.
Yeah.
But what was striking was that both looked incredibly polished because the proper spacing guidelines were followed for each style they chose. It really isn't about one being better, it's about executing your chosen style well.
That's it, exactly.
So, after all this research, years of trial and error from designers, we found some timeless rules for gallery walls that still absolutely apply now in 2025. What are the essential do's and don'ts we should really keep front of mind?
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. For the do's, always try to center your gallery around a focal hero piece. It just naturally gives your eye a starting point, anchors the whole composition.
Right, that anchor point.
Use temporary solutions first. Command strips, painter's tape to map it out. Experiment before you commit to holes. And embrace odd numbers. Groups of 3, 5, or 7 pieces are often more visually pleasing.
Why is that?
Well, they create a more dynamic, less predictable composition. It feels more naturally balanced to the eye, whereas even numbers can sometimes feel a bit too symmetrical, maybe static.
Ah, interesting. Visual dynamism. Okay, and what should we definitely avoid? What are the big don'ts?
Don't use too many tiny, small pieces. They tend to just create visual noise, look cluttered really fast, almost like confetti scattered on the wall.
Okay, avoid the confetti effect. Got it.
Avoid uniform height placement. Don't try to line everything up perfectly at one eye-level line. Vary the elevations, but within a logical structure. That single line can look quite stiff. And finally, maybe the most overlooked, don't neglect lighting. Even the most beautiful gallery wall can just fall flat without proper illumination. Picture lights, or even just good ambient lighting, can make all the difference, really make it pop.
That entryway gallery wall example we looked at really brought these points home, didn't it? It was built around a vintage mirror as the hero piece. It used odd-numbered groupings, and it had picture lights. And it just felt so deliberately designed. You could tell the planning really paid off there.
It makes a world of difference.
All right, let's tackle some of those common questions you might be asking yourself right now about gallery walls. For absolute beginners, what's the best, maybe safest, layout to start with?
Okay, if you're just starting out, honestly, a simple grid of identical frames is pretty much foolproof. Choose maybe 4, 6, or 9 same-size frames. Keep that equal spacing between them. And maybe use similar content, like all black and white photos, or maybe a set of botanical prints. It minimizes the variables and practically guarantees a clean, professional result first time.
And the big one, how do you actually prevent a gallery wall from looking cluttered? This seems to be where many of us struggle.
Right. The 3 most important things here are limit your color scheme, maintain that consistent spacing, those crucial 2-3 inches between frames, and maybe most importantly, don't overcrowd the wall. Allow your art to breathe. Remember that negative space isn't empty. It's an active part of the design. It guides the eye, provides visual calm. Less is often more.
Okay. And the age-old question that makes everyone sigh.
Right.
What's the absolute best way to hang frames evenly? It feels like it should be simple, but it rarely is in practice.
Huh. Yeah, the struggle is real. For truly professional results, our sources recommend a combination of tools. A laser level is pretty much indispensable for getting those perfectly straight lines. Painter's tape is great for marking the precise positions after you've done your mock-up. And command picture hanging strips offer adjustability, especially for lighter pieces, lets you tweak things slightly.
A tip.
For heavier pieces, though, always use proper wall anchors and a stud finder to make sure they're secure. Safety first. And honestly, patience is also a key tool here. Don't rush the hanging part.
Good advice. Finally, can you really create a stunning gallery wall on a budget? Or is it always going to be an expensive project?
Oh, absolutely you can. 100%. Some of the most successful, really impactful gallery walls we've seen feature things like thrift store frames. You can easily spray paint those for consistency. Use free printable art you find online. There's tons available. You can even frame things like cool fabric scraps or unique gift wrap. The professional look truly comes from the thoughtful arrangement, the meticulous planning, the spacing, not necessarily from spending a fortune on the components. Your budget really doesn't have to limit your creativity or the final impact. What's truly illuminating from this whole deep dive is that professional gallery walls, they're built with intention, and they genuinely reflect your personality. Whether you're drawn to those minimalist structured displays or maybe more eclectic layered arrangements, those fundamental principles of balanced composition always apply. Each piece should feel like it earns its place, whether that's through color harmony or a thematic connection or just careful visual balance. So really, take your time, plan thoroughly, don't rush the process. A thoughtful gallery wall that maybe builds gradually over time often looks more authentic, more impactful than when you try to throw together in a single weekend.
So really think about this. If your walls tell your story, what new polished narrative will you choose to create using these insights? And how might that intentional, curated story actually impact the overall feeling of your space? Go ahead, start planning your masterpiece. Your walls are definitely waiting for their next chapter.